to Mind Shock. This is your host, Pierce McGuire, and you're listening to perhaps the greatest Illuminati conspiracy of all time, the Gilmore Girls conspiracy. This is episode 2. We are diving even deeper. We barely scratched the surface of the depths of this conspiracy in part 1, but make sure you do check out part 1 just so you're up to date. We're going to be examining a lot more here in possibly the most subversive, the most absolutely subversive mainstream TV series of all time, and the psychological expose into what is going on with the collapse of Western civilization in what is also an incredibly well-acted Greek tragedy. So there's so much to explore here with this series, but we're going to be going more behind the scenes with this one into things that you just can't make up. You thought the first episode was mind-shocking? The mind shocks are going to be quite severe for this one. As always, if you want to help support the Mind Shock podcast, help logic and reason return to a world what is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe to this channel, the Bruce McGuire channel, the home of Mind Shock. And like and share, comment. That's how you'll be getting those notifications. If you're still not getting them, you can become a free patron on Patreon and get the notifications through there. Those should always work. You can also check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section, or if you're with us here live, leave them in the live chat. I'll try to get to all of them. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube and help support the channel that way. IB McFly says, I didn't realize I'd like this subject as much as I do. Really well done, Percy. I mean, it's a mind shocker. It's a mind shock. Whoever the CIA whistleblower was that pointed me in the direction of this series, which is apparently incredibly popular, but something that I just would never watch normally. I had seen nothing but commercials. I knew absolutely nothing about this. And apparently it's the most in-your-face self-blowing of the whistle of the Illuminati feminist machine. Now, there's actually plenty more at work here. There are much darker Illuminati forces here than simply exposing feminism and liberalism for what it is, what is now called wokeism, etc., and how it absolutely destroys and devastates lives. Just as a quick lead-in, I actually did post part 1 in the, I don't know if it's the official Gilmore Girls subreddit, but it is r/Gilmore Girls. So apparently it's not official, but it's got the official name, whatever. And obviously the feminist liberal meltdowns commenced. And what's curious is these people have no idea what they're watching. So even though it's obvious to anybody with any modicum of logic and reason and understanding of social engineering and how propaganda works and how the Rothschild Rockefeller launched feminist agenda destroyed the West, or almost completely destroyed the West, and it was all manufactured to capture the minds of all of these hapless, clueless, normie goofs. These authority-worshipping cultist goofs, both male and female, in these devastating ideologies and the destruction of nuclear family and the collapse that followed. So there was a few interesting comments. I'll actually read them to get us started here, because the dialogue, obviously these goofs just melted down and just went straight ad hom because they couldn't actually argue anything. But yeah, let's go over the comments real quick, and then we'll dive into some of the greatest mind shocks in mainstream television ever. If YouTube will allow. We do have, for some reason, this one and the previous episode, there's been a lot more lag than usual. Is that all coincidental? There's also a lot of black helicopters, which there aren't usually. I'm in a pretty good hideaway in a bunker. There's usually not black helicopters over my location, so that was quite weird. They actually circled after I finished the podcast as well. It was really weird, because I'm in the middle of nowhere. And we got some serious lag here. Wow. Wow. crazy lag. Crazy lag right here. I really don't know what's going on here. Just a lot of lag. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so we should be good now. Hopefully. At least temporarily. I don't know, there's something about this subject. Again, I really wish... So this... apparently, this person that threw down the gauntlet on this series... I'm starting to suspect it was some kind of CIA, maybe Mockingbird involved individual. Because why would anybody... Because I've never seen a deep dive on this. I've never seen like an Illuminati deep dive. Just, you know, the basic stuff from all the fans. So... Okay. So here was one of the... They were talking politics. Oh man, really slow. But let's get here. Dun, 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 dun. So slow. So much lag. I wonder if you have you have to have a certain amount of subs or be a big enough channel where you don't get affected by the lag. Okay. 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 Or not. Still plenty of lag. Alright, so I guess we wait. We wait. You can't hear me, Sovereign Searcher? You can't hear me, Sovereign Searcher? Okay, we're good. Welcome, 83 Devil Dog, Sovereign Searcher, IB McFly, Chin Chin, here for all of this as well. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on here. Just so incredibly slow. Man. I mean, just wow. Wow. Let's see. Let's see what I can do here. Okay, here we go. So there was a comment about Rory traveling with and covering Obama and worshipping Hillary Clinton. I respond, it really explains why her life ended up the way that it did. And then we have the triggered goofs swarm in because they obviously don't know what they're watching. and they're just clueless, and just even for basic preschool level English. So the response was, speaking of disrespectful and out of place comments, I'll remind you she finished the final season as a published author on a path towards success on her own terms. She wasn't a published author. I mean, she published articles, not books. No one's a published journalist. No one's life is smooth sailing. Rory's life ended up like most people her age did and presently do, with meaningless, expensive degree and no way to break into the industry she originally trained for. She was written with her life like that because that is what is relatable to a number of 30-somethings who grew up watching the show. So that's all incorrect, obviously, because Amy Palladino, the writer, and her husband... So I actually watched a few Q&As and panels with them. They're full-level narcissists, so, and they don't know what they're writing. They write what they know in terms of the ideology in their head. But I think this was all an unintentional reveal, but there might have been intentional moments as well, which we'll go over, because we don't fall for false dichotomy logical fallacies here. So my response is that Rory ended up miserable, and was mostly miserable, ever since she started getting reality checks when she left the coddled environment of Stars Hollow. But yes, she is relatable. Plenty of Democrat women end up exactly as she did. Miserable, and with not much to show for it, some single moms, some not. For every Paris who is an extreme outlier, there are a ton of Rorys. Women failed by feminism, Democrat brainwashing. But even Paris got married earlier and had kids earlier and didn't completely sacrifice everything for her career, even though she actually was capable of making it no matter what. Lorelai was successful because of her parents, especially two of them, not in spite of them. In fact, this is clearly illustrated by her parents, Rory's grandparents, taking it easy on Rory because they looked at it as a second chance, because they believed they failed Lorelai, but they actually didn't, even if they were excessively harsh. This actually caused Rory to spiral harder since there were no real values instilled, just the entitlement attitude of liberalism and feminism. Alexis is a phenomenal actress. You can see the pain all over her face when she talks to Dean, knowing he is happily married in A Year in the Life. And obviously I get downvoted like crazy by these lunatics, because these clueless Dunning-Kruger goofs who don't understand any of these concepts or what they're even watching. So, another interesting point here, because they try to paint Lorelai as this successful woman who has liberal politics, but the thing is, and what I also pointed out, I don't know if I want to read all my comments here, what I also pointed out was that, again, the subconscious mind is programmed in very early childhood, not post-puberty. In very early childhood, where Lorelai had two parents. She was not raised by a single mom. She had two staunch Republican parents who instilled extreme... I mean, see, an extreme view of what it is to be successful and what it takes. Even though there's nepotism and cronyism built into that, with all their connections and money, she was still a really good student, and something we didn't really go over, she kind of actually psyoped Rory into wanting to go to Harvard because that's what she wanted to do. And you could see in the episode where they visit Harvard, Lorelai actually looks at this painting of, I don't know if it was a girl that went to her class at Chilton or whoever, but yeah, that was supposed to be her. So she was basically like the classic narcissist mom. She was basically living vicariously through her daughter, kind of forging her into who she thought she was supposed to be. Lord Zed in the chat here. Were you here last night, Lord Zed? I don't know if you were. The legendary Lord Zed is in the chat now. Lord Zed says, my mom is having obsessed with Gilmore Girls. So, anyway, so this level of narcissism, we didn't quite discuss it, but Rory never really had a chance to be her own person or develop her own dreams because this narcissist mother basically implanted all of the dreams and desires into her own daughter. It's literally her own mini-me. Everything down to her sense of humor, the way she talks, etc., etc. And so all of this is very obvious. And like a lot of these goofs on these subreddits and all these feminist fans, they don't even know what they're watching. Because this show blew the whistle on itself on what happens when you don't have two grounded parents and a strong parental figure. So just the absolute failure and degeneracy that feminism brings, and of course all of them being sodomites. But wow, IB McFly says, yeah, me and my wife watched 5 episodes today. She has already watched the series as it was released. Did she listen to part 1? Because I would like her thoughts, because I'm actually fascinated. I postulated that people didn't realize what they were watching, and even now there's no shortage of goofs. Like, for example, on Reddit, even now with after, because Year in the Life really made it obvious. But it was actually obvious even from pretty much the end of season 1, but into season 2 and onward, it was all very obvious. This inciting incident of Lorelai opening up the doors for her own parents, Rory's grandparents, to affect her life, and this life of privilege, this classist life. And that brings the other question, which I touched upon before. Would Rory have been better off if she hadn't gone to Chilton? Now, maybe she would not have made it to Harvard, but she might have done extremely well because that safety net of the lap of luxury and the money her grandparents provided, that wouldn't have been there. And so yeah, that's an interesting concept. So another thing we didn't touch upon on how kind of the show's obviously gluttony. So it promotes gluttony. So that's a very Illuminati materialistic satanic worshipping pillar. Which is gluttony, but also mocking. Lorelai simply is kind of nasty how she just mocks everybody. Like, she really doesn't have that many close friends. She's got Luke and Sookie and sort of Michelle. We didn't really get into him too much, but that's about it. And kind of Kirk, sorta. But this is a town. I think in the pilot there's thousands and thousands of people in this town. Realistically, it looks like a couple hundred, but whatever. She's not really all that close with anyone, and it's all mocking all the time. I mean, it's downright nasty, and you could see just the narcissism in these characters and who she turned Rory into, because Rory gets nastier and nastier with the mocking as well. In season 1, she doesn't really do a lot of the harsh mocking, especially not on the townspeople. I mean, maybe in some movies they're watching, just kind of making fun of some of the movies, which is a little bit different than making fun of people you know in real life who actually care about you, because they might have not liked Lorelai that much, but everybody liked Rory. She was like the hero of the town. Again, all the ego stroking. Alonzo Mosley says, a cautionary tale of what happens when you follow rules and seek fulfillment through social approval. Yeah, and specifically, I mean, not just that, but specifically the feminist Illuminati machine destroying human lives. IB McFly says, I had her listen to part 1 up until you give your spoiler warning at about the 10-minute mark just to encourage her to watch with a different mindset this time. Casey in the chat here saying, I freaking love Gilmore Girls. A lot of people do. And rightfully so. I mean, I don't know if I gave enough credit. You know, again, it's extremely well acted. It's relatively well written, blowing the whistle on itself. So I'm definitely not saying this is a horrible show in any way. The amount of layers this show has is pretty incredible. Everything from the different townspeople to the different settings, just all of the different storylines and characters woven throughout the seasons. I mean, it's actually pretty impressive. I mean, even, you know, Illuminati conspiracy aside, it's pretty impressive. I'm not knocking the show in any way. So, IB McFly says, I was in my teens when it came out, so I enjoy the time period it takes place in. It's nostalgic. Yeah, I mean, this is pre-2008 collapse. And actually it actually debuted pre-9/11 as well. So season 1, arguably the best season, debuted October 5th, 2000. So approximately 1 year before 9/11. So, yeah, I mean, definitely some nostalgia, totally different time period. But the psychological aspects, the same throughout history. There's a lot of Shakespearean stuff going on here as well. So, yeah, I mean, even now, a lot of the fans don't know what they're watching. So, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. So, again, people kind of credit Lorelai as being this kind of liberal single mom hero, where completely ignoring that the only reason she was successful, which is the same reason why Rory is not, or not incredibly successful, she had 2 staunch Republican parents instilling values, even though they were emotionally abusive, emotionally unavailable, and lacking in many categories. They still instilled some kind of work ethic and values and expectations of success, whereas Lorelai did a little bit of the expectation of success, sort of. Although it almost seems like she made it clear, like Rory's just perfect the way she is. And kind of, you know, she gets good grades, whatever, and that's perfectly fine. But that's not required, and she's not going to be punished if she doesn't. So there's none of the actual backbone of discipline in any way. Lorelai did not provide any of that as a single liberal mom. So all of it, it's just weird how a lot of these goof fans attribute the success of Lorelai to her liberal Democrat mind and not her parents, which forged that mind in her early childhood. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. And even the grandparents, they thought they failed with Lorelai, where they actually didn't in terms of on the success aspect. I'm not talking about the emotional aspect, but just on career success, they were very successful, because look at how Lorelai turned out, then look at how Rory turned out. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the really, really crazy stuff. Let's get into MINDSHOCK land. So, Casey in the chat says, I watched this after my kids were grown, but I felt a connection with Lorelai. I felt like I parented like her. She was a smart a biatch, but I was okay with that. But you're right, she was awful. Yeah, it's kind of weird, because, and I argued this in episode 1, she was a horrible narcissist, but at the same time, she actually did a pretty decent job until Chilton. And her own intuition was telling her that it probably wasn't good for Rory to get into the realm of her grandparents and high society, because that's what she escaped. And she wanted to be self-made, which, of course, her parents gave her the tools to do that, just through the ways they raised her before she left them. Even though they offered her a home, they didn't want her to leave. I mean, she was pregnant. And they would have fully supported her and her marrying Chris. I mean, how many single moms out there, teenage single moms out there, would have loved to have the parents that Lorelai had? They would have loved for those parents to support her marrying the father of the child and helping them in any way, having the father of the child work for her father. I mean, for the hate that they get, and I'm not saying it's undeserved, because they were emotionally abusive in many ways, but for the hate that they get, do they not deserve? Like, they stood by each other and their child, even when their child got pregnant, disobeyed them, gave them an attitude, all of that. They were still willing to not only stand by her, but support her child, her husband, and have that family. How many people out there, how many young mothers out there would have loved, would have gave anything to have the parents Lorelai had and didn't appreciate? And again, I'm not saying she didn't have legitimate grievances against them, but just, again, Lorelai's so much of a narcissist, she just can't see that. Wow, KC. Wow. Do I have your permission to read your latest comment, Casey? Because that's kind of personal. I mean, I know you posted it in a public live, but I want your explicit permission to read that comment. or I'm not going to read it. But I mean, it might be helpful to people listening and to demonstrate the issues with being your kid's best friend instead of providing discipline as a parent. Do I have your permission to read your comment about your daughter? I'll give you a couple more seconds to respond. If you give me your permission, I will read it. Okay, permission granted. Casey says, sure. So, Casey previously said, I watched this after my kids were grown, but I felt a connection with Lorelai. I feel like I parented like her. Of course, my daughter is now a 22-year-old stripper, no drugs, and is actually a lesbian too. So maybe I could have picked a better TV parent to be like. Another question, were you a single parent? And Casey says yes. So yeah, a lot of issues with the ideology here. And that's why I also think Luke greatly failed Rory, because he was in a position to really instill guidance and discipline, and he just worshipped the ground she walked on instead, which led to this great downfall of just ego, indulgence, and narcissism. So it's almost like Rory was doomed to fail no matter what, and that opens the door to the nurture versus nature debate, because I would also argue by nature she was a really nice, good-hearted kid, because look at her mom, and her mom, not so, but she was still like that up to the point that her environment corrupted her to the point of no return through initially Charlton and then eventually college life, which happens to many people as well. But Casey says, I support her because she is happy. That's good. Yeah, I mean, things can always be worse and things can always be better, and it ain't over till it's over. I mean, 22 years old is so incredibly young. I mean, you know, she's got her whole life ahead of her, so. Okay. Yeah, so that's the intro here. Now, let me play a clip that I didn't play last time. So so it was 9 years since the end of the last 7th season until the revival. And then it's been, so the revival was that 2016? And then just this past December, 2024. So 8 years since the revival, there's another piece of media in the Gilmore Girls saga. I'm not sure everybody's seen this. I mean, I'm sure the diehard fans have, but I didn't know about this. So let's watch the continuation 8 years later. We get another. We can call this a micro episode.
Luke? Kirk?
Kirk?
Lorelai?
Coffee, please.
Coming right up.
Luke? You shouldn't have.
I had to. You're drinking me out of business.
Ha, thank you. With top brands they'll love from Walmart, give the gift that shows you get them.
So, for all the Gilmore Girls aficionados, this was another chapter here It is kind of weird. Why does it say Williams Hardware? I don't think it originally said that, but yeah, I mean, they just look so old and tired. It's kind of sad in a way. But the other interesting thing, I'm going to talk about this later after we we go over all the crazy Illuminati stuff that we're about to take a deep dive into. Few shows get to span this many decades. Just this many decades to tell the stories across decades, so you can really psychologically examine these characters. Casey says, my daughter changed when she went off to college, across the country from home, and found sorority life and partying and all that. Up until then, she was the perfect child, like Rory. Yeah, that's what we talked about in episode 1, if you haven't checked out episode 1. I mean, college has just destroyed so many great kids. I mean, it's just so crazy because nobody really talks about it. But look at the psychological destruction college life just, I mean, that is wrought on all these great kids by college life. Just the lack of discipline, the lack of parental oversight, particularly paternal oversight. Because, you know, the father's supposed to be the disciplinarian. And you could see how Rory and a lot of kids turn out as a result of single mothers. And again, not knocking the single mothers. Some of them do the best they can. Obviously, Lorelai was this crazy narcissist. But, you know, there's plenty of awesome single moms out there. And there's plenty of single moms that succeed. By plenty, I don't know if I could say the majority, though. Probably not the majority. Probably not even close. But there, yeah, it's really, really tough. And obviously one of the goals of the Illuminati and the feminist machine is to destroy the nuclear family. And you can see societies, Western society is basically in the gutter now. It's a cesspool since the destruction of the nuclear family. And the promotion and celebration of single motherhood. I mean, that's what's crazy, too. It's like, it's one thing to support them and, you know, obviously hope they succeed in every way, but to celebrate it as if it's a good thing, that's the level of insanity these psyops and the propaganda have led to. So, anyway, who's seen this commercial before? It's actually kind of an interesting commercial. I mean, I don't know how much work she's had done to her face. She looks kind of weird, but, and then, of course, this is a lot more, you know, since this is 2024, it's way more woke. I mean, is there even a single white person in we got like an Asian girl, a black guy, is that an Indian woman? I mean, this is just, and another black guy. I mean, this is hilarious. I mean, this commercial is crazy, reaches insane levels of wokeness. I mean, look at this. Not like there's not a white person left in this Connecticut small town. Oh, there we go. The troubadour. That's the only one. And I think that's the only reason that's a white guy, because I think that's the same actor that played the older troubadour in the series, and of course Kirk. But look, practically everybody else in the background, not a single white person. Is that accurate representation of a town that's probably 99% white? Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay, anyway. Aside over. So, let's get into the darkness of Illuminati land. We're going to watch this clip from Family Guy, and it's quite dark. Quite dark.
We now return. Return to Gilmore Girls. We now return to Gilmore Girls.
Mom, I need to talk to you about Dean.
Which Dean? Howard Dean, James Dean, or Jimmy Dean?
Ugh, too old, too dead, and too fattening.
You don't have to tell that to my thighs.
Can you ask her thighs if they borrowed my Gap capris?
They did not, and they're insulted that you even asked such a thing.
As insulted as Kitty Kelly when people accuse her of taking liberties with her best-selling tell-alls?
Almost. Want to make out?
Absolutely not.
Oh, you're so lying.
I so am.
We now
am.
Okay, so first instinct from everybody is, oh, well, this is just typical Family Guy filth. Typical Family Guy trash. Destroying the mind. Gutter trash. Typical Family Guy gutter trash. But it's not that simple. So, one could be quick to write this off. One could be quick to write this off as just typical Seth MacFarlane nonsense. But the plot is about to thicken, my friends. The plot is about to thicken. Was Seth MacFarlane actually on Gilmore Girls?
Great, I'm Woody Allen and Annie Hall.
You thought ahead. Smart.
Oh, the mirror? Yeah. I never leave home without all the essentials. Mirror, makeup, picture of Sean Cassidy. I'm done. Do you want to use it?
Thanks. Oh, don't I look charming?
Oh, you look great.
I've looked better. I had to run here straight from work. Kinko's.
Hey, Liza, that gets me thinking. Maybe you and I ought to do a little reproducing after the ceremony.
Clever.
Don't be a snot.
Shut up. That's my boyfriend, Zach.
Oh, sure.
Of course, we're breaking up because we're transferring to different schools. He's going to Florida State. I'm going to UMass. Although I'm kind of going to miss this place.
I'm not. This place stunk. It's Bush League.
Why'd you go here?
My parents, wise investors that they are, couldn't afford anything else.
Yeah, I guess that 2-point zilch grade point average didn't reason into things.
Shut up.
Between the lines.
Go die.
What's the first word that comes to mind when you look at Seth MacFarlane's face and listen to his voice? I mean, slime kind of comes to mind. I mean, this guy's kind of a slime. Really sleazy, isn't he? What a schmuck.
Are you sure you two don't want to give it another go? Because you're darling together.
Thanks for the mirror.
My pleasure.
Hey, a bunch of us are going to Shakey's afterwards for pizza. You want to come?
Oh, I'm going out with my daughter after, but it sounds like fun.
Okay, you guys are not going to believe this. There's some blue-blooded rich woman out there setting up professional film equipment like she's shooting a movie or something.
You're kidding.
Whose mother is it?
I don't know. Little Precious must be around here somewhere, though.
I hate people with money.
So do I, with every fiber of my being.
Me too. Money people. Ugh.
Hey, you guys are not going to believe this.
You're Mr. Announcement Guy today.
What, you going to pipe in every time I talk?
Can it?
Stuff it.
They're in love. Clearly.
So Mrs. Gotbucks out there not only has a cameraman, she's got a sound guy, too.
Oh, no.
It's like a Baz Luhrmann movie out there.
That's Emily, right? Rich people feel so entitled.
Yeah, damn them.
I swear I saw her wipe her face with a $100 bill.
We should line them up against a wall. You know what I'm saying?
Is Lorelei Gilmore here?
Yes?
Oh, good. Have a look at these, will you?
Wow, pretty.
Look them over and take your pick.
What for?
To wear.
Are they for sale?
No, they're paid for. These are from your mother, Emily Gilmore.
Wow, ritzy.
I really don't want to wear a corsage.
They're all paid for.
Really, it's too much.
Your mother wants you to pick one.
Really, it's okay.
She'll just come back here herself.
This one, thanks.
Good choice. The cameraman said that would look best on film.
So you're the rich girl.
Maybe. I'm not rich, but my parents have money, but I'm totally self-sufficient. I take nothing from them except this corsage and my daughter's tuition. So, you gonna stone me?
I should have guessed. Hey, look at her friends. They're wearing suits that drip money. Hey, pal, this was 30% off.
So that's why you didn't want to get pizza? Because it's below you?
Oh, no, Liza. Pizza is not below me. Believe me, I love pizza. I eat tons of pizza. It's one of my 4 major food groups. Candy, popcorn, and pizza. It's 2 of my food groups. That's how much I love pizza.
I want to believe you.
Enjoy your champagne and caviar at the Ritz, Your Highness.
I am not rich.
Oh,
You don't trust your valuables around us poor kids, huh?
Knock it off, Zach.
Making sure the camera's getting your best side, princess?
Look, some people want to give this goof credit. I'm not giving him any credit. I don't think he's acting. He's just being himself. What a scumbag. Anyway, so was this really just him screwing around on Family Guy putting this in here? Or did he have the blessing of the Gilmore Girls writers? In fact, we are going to be looking at a big reveal here, straight from his mouth, on how he ended up working on Gilmore Girls and the Gilmore Girls, The Simpsons, Family Guy, Illuminati connections here. So all of the coincidence theorists hopefully are sitting down for this.
Hi, I'm Seth MacFarlane, and this is the Wired Autocomplete Interview. I'm from New England. We only respond to negative criticism. If you want to on me, I'm here. Did Seth MacFarlane... Hi, I'm Seth MacFarlane, and this is the Wired Autocomplete Interview. Did Seth MacFarlane... Complete interview. Did Seth MacFarlane make The Simpsons? I fucking wish. No, I did not make The Simpsons. I have a lot of very good friends at The Simpsons. Matt Groening is a friend, and Al Jean, and Mike Reese, and Mike Scully, and those guys.
So, obviously The Simpsons well known for its Illuminati predictions. So he just happens to be good friends with all these Simpsons creators and Freemasons. Anybody find that suspicious? But let's continue here.
That was actually a legitimate throat clear. I wasn't trying to undercut what I just said. Who was Seth MacFarlane on Gilmore Girls? I think I was a graduating college student. I was literally just taking shots at Lorelai Gilmore. And then I think my sister and I sang a rendition of Michael Row the Boat Ashore. I think that was the extent of my Gilmore Girls tenure. I was friends with Amy Palladino and Dan Palladino, so it was a little bit of nepotism. Dan Palladino used to run Family Guy with me, and so when he left to go do Gilmore Girls, he took me, yes.
So, one of the producers of Family Guy goes on to write Gilmore Girls. He's married to Amy Palladino, the other writer and creator of Gilmore Girls. Is everybody still following here? Who thought we would be in this Illuminati web here? Now, watching this clip on Family Guy, this is practically sanctioned. I mean, could this be any more sanctioned? So this is not just the deviant mind of Seth MacFarlane. So this promotion of incestuous sodomy, I mean, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. One half of the writing team of Gilmore Girls is a producer of Family Guy and best buddies with Seth MacFarlane. IB McFly, you better be sitting down for this, because the mind shocks are just getting started. So let's look at this other scene from Gilmore Girls, and it's quite weird.
So hard. So harsh.
Harsh, but true.
Can I get some water?
Why are you covering your eyes, Kirk?
In case you're naked?
You said I'd walk into my daughter's room and get naked?
I don't know your domestic routine.
Glasses are above the sink. You said I'd walk into my daughter's room and get naked? You said I'd walk into my
So hard.
Anybody think that's kind of a weird thing to write about? I don't know what's going on here. But if everybody's still sitting down, not only that, but guess who? Not only was Seth MacFarlane best buds with one half of the writing team on Gilmore Girls, who happened to be a producer of Family Guy, apparently he was romantically involved with the actress that plays Lorelai. Who's ready for this?
Lauren Graham's in a little black dress and Seth MacFarlane singing show tunes. Let's go backstage and talk to him. All right, I'm here with the magic duo of the show. Thank you so much for talking with us backstage.
You're welcome. I took my bracelet off and Seth is drinking.
Yeah. Well, this is the internet.
Very informal part of the show.
You said you were afraid of the internet. This is us right here. We come in peace.
No. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can never take my eyes off that. If I could pull that off, I'd be doing it every day.
Hey, Seth, you had a little fun with our autograph book before the show. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well,
Did you write something?
No, I might have drawn a Stewie on Michelle Bachmann's page.
Oh, you went back through the book?
But think of it as an olive branch from the liberals to the conservatives.
I don't think they'll see it that way.
We want to know about the kiss between you and Jason Ritter. Tell us about that.
I don't know. It's so upsetting. Someone came up to him and said, how is it, doing Parenthood? He was like, I like it. And they said, what's it like working with Lauren Graham? He said, good. And the person said, I hear she has really soft lips. Ew! Who heard that? From where? Like, that's got to be some, softlips.com, that's the internet. That's you. And who would report that? And, as opposed to what? What do people have? Very sandpapery? What? What? It was so upsetting.
Any thoughts on that?
You're right to be confused.
Oh my God.
Seth, we loved your song. This is the album right here.
It's a record.
It's a record. You're on vinyl.
This is the only way you can get it.
Is that
no
true?
CDs. No, it's
I wish it was. I wish it were. It'd be part of the whole retro.
I wish it were too. It's kind of fun.
You said, I was reading the liner notes. You said it was the most fulfilling experience of your career. Is that?
Yeah. It was so no pressure, and it was like the best band in the world. It was.
I bet that made the Family Guy people feel really bad. They're like, okay, it wasn't this.
Yeah.
It was
Family Guy's work.
This
was not work. This was just fun.
And the microphone. Tell us about the microphone.
The microphone was about 60 years old. It was Sinatra's mic that he used to record with at Capitol. They kept it up somehow in usable condition. It doesn't look too pretty, but it sounds
full of why doesn't it look pretty? I picture it covered in
full
spit.
of smoke and starlet perfume.
Well, that's great. Thanks, guys, for talking with us backstage. So much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Lauren Graham has actually said many times that she's basically Lorelai. So she's basically this narcissist airhead actress, which I guess is not surprising. But yeah, that's actually not their only appearance together. Let's look at these intellectual powerhouses converse on yet another talk show. I mean, this is a real meeting of the minds here coming up.
show not worth it. All right. Will, you're the hit-making machine behind the Black Eyed Peas, but also really dislike a wet sink. But you realise that's what happens with sinks.
No, like around the sink, that's just nasty. You know, like you go to the restroom and stuff, and it's like already wet, and you didn't even turn on the sink. Like, who forgot to dry off the sink? That's just nasty.
But going to the restroom's different. Like, I hate when you go to a restroom and there's just water on the floor, or just moisture on.
You don't know what that is. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, like, you know, like, it's just nasty.
I mean, has anybody ever witnessed these kinds of intellectual powerhouses? I mean, these are what these supposedly functional adults are discussing here. I mean, this is crazy stuff. I mean, we're living in idiocracy, are we not?
So if you came over to my house and my sink was wet, would that be a deal breaker for you and I as friends?
I probably wouldn't even use the restroom.
What's wrong with my restroom?
He boycotts peeing.
Just as a pet peeve of mine, you know, certain things just like yuck mode.
I keep a very clean toilet, I should let you know. And there's plenty of toilet paper. The roll is always...
I got that. You know
Is
those,
it dry?
You know those Toto toilets?
No.
My toilet is a shithole.
I wanted you...
Literally. It is literally old.
Like I said, a real meeting of the minds. I mean, this guy, this is will.i.am. He's so impressed with that joke that warrants like a handshake. I mean, look at these. These are the kinds of intellectual powerhouses in the entertainment industry. I mean, what is this, like preschool jokes?
I was pretty good. I went to Japan and whatnot, right? And they had these crazy toilets.
Yeah.
And it's Totos with little buttons and heated seats.
Oh, is that the one with the little fountain that comes up and just knows where to go, wherever you are?
And then they got music on that, because like if you make loud noise, it like plays beats. I swear to you, that's real stuff.
Can you turn it into a hit? If you were there at the time and there was music playing, could you make it happen?
I swear to you, you need to get that toilet. It's the shit.
Okay, Lauren, we know you from the Gilmore Girls, but your first entertainment gig was with the US Soccer World Cup.
World Cup Soccer,
World Cup.
Yeah.
Doing what?
I was the World Cup soccer mascot. His name is Striker, and he's a dog.
Striker the dog?
Yeah.
So you were in the Striker the dog mascot suit?
Yes. And I had to, it was like a convention, and so I wore the suit and took pictures with people, and it took, I would say, more than half the day before I realized that when you're wearing a dog suit, you don't have to smile for a picture. Because no one can see you.
Like I said, a real meeting of the minds. So she started her career as the female version of a dog. Interesting.
But you committed.
Yeah, well, I wanted to be a friendly mascot, you know? But it was a terrible job. I'm pretty sure I went home crying, and I had to share the suit, because I guess if you stay in those suits for too long, you start to go kind of crazy or something. And so you could only spend like 15 minutes in it, and then I'd have to share it with somebody else, so it was like sweaty suit sharing day.
Oh.
It wasn't good. It was really bad.
will.i.am
At least I made like $100.
in wipes now, having
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It was a long time ago.
All right, Seth, you're one of Hollywood's most powerful producers, but you're named after a town drunk.
Yes. Yeah.
Which one?
My
and how is
name...
there a famous one?
What?
How's there a famous town drunk?
Is there a I don't think there is. Except for maybe Andy Dick, but I mean...
So retro, so 90s.
He's the LA town drunk. He's the lovable guy that, you know, he's always falling all over himself, but it's okay because you love him. My middle name is Woodbury, and my grandfather has it, my cousins all have it, all the men on my mom's side of the family have it, and we all thought for the longest time that it was this prestigious New England, you know, cultured name that had a great history behind it. And so we asked my grandfather one day, and he goes, oh, no, no, no. He goes, my mother, in 1904, when I was born, was just enamored with Woodbury, the town drunk. Thought he was the funniest fucking guy she'd ever met. And named me after him. And so it was passed down through the generations. So we're all named after this drunk, but this turn-of-the-century drunk who probably had like a flipped-up top hat with the, you know,
yes,
the shoes with the open toes, and maybe goes down to the creek on the weekends with a string tied to the toe and a cork at the other end. And
it's a lost art.
It is.
Being a real hardcore town drunk.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like gesturing. Whatever happened to that?
I don't know. Somebody needs to bring that back.
Bells on shoes. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll be back with more right after this.
So there you have it. Supposedly, Seth MacFarlane, who's best buddies with Palladino, the Palladinos, who, one of which produced Family Guy. And then he's also allegedly dating the lead in the Gilmore Girls, Lauren Graham. And he's putting on Family Guy skits like this, promoting incest and sodomy. And also guest starring on Gilmore Girls. Is everybody keeping track of this so far? I mean, this Illuminati conspiracy, I mean, this is so out there. I mean, isn't it practically unbelievable at this point? I mean, this is practically unbelievable. And of course, Seth MacFarlane admitting that he's also friends with the Freemason Simpsons creators. Matt Groening, of course, was also named by Virginia Giuffre in the Epstein case. So connected to Epstein as well. And the Hollywood cabal is Matt Groening. Is everybody still following? This is one of the deepest Illuminati conspiracy theories thus far. I mean, this is really, really out there. Even for MindShock, this is kind of out there. But I guess a lot of this is also what one can expect from MindShock, where we upturn every stone and go down every single rabbit hole, revealing none unexplored. So, again, in terms of the writers, I actually think that Palladino's wife, she might not be in the know, because she seems like your classic feminist narcissist. She might have just been writing what she knew. And then her husband might have snuck in some things here and there. So this expose, this self-blowing of the whistle, I mean, again, like I said, I've never seen a mainstream show quite like this do that. But the final point I want to go over in this episode, well, there's actually one more. So in terms of the promotion of gluttony, mockingness, and also just brain rot, because Lorelai is obsessed with pop culture, movies, tabloids, magazines, constantly going on and on about celebrity culture, just brain rot. Now, she mocks it, but she still reads it and consumes it to rot the brain. And this brings me to my next point. What actual moral lessons were taught on this show? Because you have other shows like Seventh Heaven. I mean, there's all these other shows where there were actually moral lessons. Heavy-handed or not, cheesy or not, you could say that there were moral lessons learned. What were the moral lessons in this show? I mean, other than it being a cautionary tale Greek tragedy of what happens when narcissism consumes all, and the feminist agenda is allowed to take its natural course, and you live with 1 foot in the world of luxury and 1 foot outside of it. Because that was really her problem, Rory's problem. I mentioned this in episode 1, because Lorelai actually really was a self-made woman. She only took money for Rory. For herself, she made herself. She was a successful businesswoman. I mean, she paid her dues. She started off as a maid. and eventually opened up her own business, which was pretty successful. She is a self-made woman. Now, she owes her own psychology to her parents and having two parents, etc., etc. But you can say she's a self-made woman financially. Now, Rory actually wants to be that, but she's not, because she always has her grandparents to fall back on. And she never really made the decision to either be the self-made woman like her mother and step away from that world, or to embrace that world and actually use her connections, because then she would have been successful. And we went over that in episode 1. Now, so again, if somebody who has seen this, if there were moral lessons, because it's just a cycle. It's just a cycle, because Rory, being the narcissist that she was trained to be by her mother, she considers Dean hers because he was hers first, and she ends up having an affair with a married man, something she continues to repeat in her adult life with her affair with Logan Huntsberger while he's engaged. And she doesn't even feel bad about it. I mean, that's actually one of the things you have to give Lorelai credit for, because that offended Lorelai's sensibilities. Even though Lorelai's this massive narcissist and just this pretty terrible person in many respects, not in all respects. You know, she definitely helped out her friends here and there. And of course, you know, she would do anything for Rory as long as it didn't offend her own sensibilities, which was their whole rift in whatever season that was when they weren't talking. The Court of Public Opinion says, if you were familiar with Matt Groening in the 70s, his characters in School is Hell, Life is Hell, etc. were very telling. Yeah, he is named in the Epstein files. So yeah, if anybody remembers any actual moral lessons here, I can't think of any. I really can't think of any. I mean, even though it's touted as this feel-good, comfort-style show, I mean, it's a celebration of narcissism, and it's very on the nose, but again, just visit the Gilmore Girls subreddit. The viewers don't know. They're mentally gone. They don't know what they're watching. This is one giant psyop of indulging narcissism and the ego while promoting gluttony and sodomy and infidelity to a certain extent. So, yeah, that's what we have here. I mean, just the level of narcissism of Lorelai is just completely off the charts, and she seems oblivious to it too. Like, if you watch Q&As or panels with Lauren Graham, I don't think she can even consider that possibility due to the real-life narcissist that she is. Because she's just playing herself. Whereas Alexis Bledel, I don't think I would call her a narcissism. She actually seems like a nice person in the Q&A panels. I didn't pick up any narcissism at all. She's just a great actress. And again, this series was phenomenally acted. You have to give it that. Except for the revival. I mean, that was a little painful. So, yeah, the final point here, and one that makes this show so interesting to dissect, is the "you can't go home again" narrative. And we see this explored in A Year in the Life as well, where she gets offended where people think that she's back to Stars Hollow as a permanent resident. And she says, I'm not back, because she's supposed to be out there being successful. So in the "you can't go home again" narrative, whether you're successful or not, you can't go home again. That's a common theme in literature and media. And something else that should be explored more often, and it isn't, but I talk about it on MindShock all the time, is small town living versus city living in the scope of happiness, success, and life in general. And I think subconsciously all humans realize this. And I think that's why the show was so popular and successful as well, because there's so much going on a subconscious level here. Because Stars Hollow is a town where people can live and be fulfilled, and yet Rory dreams of going to the city, going to Ivy League colleges and the city outside of this small town that ultimately all corrupts her. she becomes corrupted and ruined in every senses of those words. And just this incredible fall. Not that she can't rebound. I mean, who knows? If they do a season 2 of The Revival, I mean, you know, she's pregnant at the end of it. Spoilers again. Massive spoilers. But, yeah, this is not an ideal life. We can put it that way. And obviously, life's not about being ideal. There's always going to be trials and tribulations, etc. But it's one thing to face them with the most amount of tools possible and not. And that's why this is a show that blows the whistle on itself in terms of the Illuminati feminist machine, collapsing Western civilization. So if all humans kind of subconsciously realize that city life is destructive and feeds the ego and just churns out narcissists, I mean, look at all the psychopathic narcissists that are CEOs. I mean, men and women. And you can see, I mean, is that really the type of human you want to be? I mean, look at the type of human Rory was in season 1, and then Rory at Chilton, which still wasn't that bad, but then Rory at Yale, which, I mean, that was the beginning of the end. And then, you know, she goes on to live in New York, London, all these places, and it completely destroys her. Does ultimate fulfillment lie in being a good person? And is the happiness that one can achieve in their life not connected with academia, quackademia, the cult of authority worship, whatever you want to call it, all of these advanced indoctrination facilities supporting statism and corruption? And alleged knowledge that's not even true, because obviously, you know, every couple hundred years, all the information in the textbooks that all these students regurgitate on command like circus animals for treats, aka degrees, well, that all changes every 100, and not even 100 years, that all changes. So, is it really worth it to throw away your life for fortune, fame, whatever? I mean, an interesting character, again, the self-blowing of the whistle, is Rory's best friend, and we'll finish with this for this episode. Rory's best friend, Lane, who she actually treats not so well because she's so self-absorbed. But Lane is actually a pretty good friend to her. And her arc, while many found not satisfying, she ends up married with kids and never getting out of Stars Hollow, really. And she ends up taking over her mother's store, working at her mother's antique shop. And some would say that's unfulfilled, and I might partially agree. I mean, she should probably have been running some kind of music shop. Maybe some kind of battle of the band situation where she still performs with Hypalion, her band, so she could still kind of fulfill that musically. But is she more happy and fulfilled? It's still not really known whether she finished college. Her mother was making her go to that religious college, and it's unknown if she even graduated from that one. But who ended up more happy and fulfilled? The one who never left the small town and is happily married with kids? Or the one who went to the Ivy League, who traveled the world, who bedded many suitors? And again, that's why this whole thing is just this Illuminati feminist machine blowing the whistle on itself. And then, of course, it's not that simple, because you have the Seth MacFarlane angle, and you have this this injection of Illuminati programming within the overall show. And this is another case where I believe we can say useful idiots might be involved. And again, I'm just guessing here. I do not know any of these people. I do not claim anything is true or untrue. What is the motto here, of course? The only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. But I think it's possible. I think it's possible that of the writing team, the Paladinos, Amy was just writing what she knew, what's in her head. And it seems to be the case with this show where, so her husband is involved in Family Guy, possibly Illuminati connected, and maybe she is too. Maybe she's not being used as a useful idiot, but I think it's possible she is. Also, I think there are certain actors in Hollywood who might not be initiated. And I think most of the cast of Gilmore Girls might actually not be. They might not be taking part in these strange satanic Hollywood ceremonies. I mean, I don't know about the Paladinos. They look like they might be. But as far as the rest of the cast, as far as the actual cast, I think it's entirely possible they might not be. If anybody was, obviously Lauren Graham would be the top pick, especially with her alleged romantic entanglement with Seth MacFarlane, who's obviously dialed into the Illuminati quite closely. But the rest of the cast of characters, I mean, clearly there are many actors, especially that haven't reached the upper echelons of Hollywood, that might not be involved in any of this stuff. Like, that would be really disappointing if Alexis Bledel was actually involved in any of the shadiness of Hollywood. But I actually think it's possible she's not, because even in her recent interviews, she just comes across as so genuine. Like, we talked about this in one of the live Q&As with Charlie Sheen and a lot of these actors, that when they're younger, they have this light in their eyes and it goes out. I'm not sure I could say that Alexis Bledel's light in her eyes is out. She seems like she's still genuine and possibly still a really good person. I mean, I don't know her personally, but yeah, I don't think all is lost, and I don't think every single individual in Hollywood is all part of the Epstein-Diddy shenanigans. But those are the thoughts here. The Court of Public Opinion says, is it worth watching? Is the show worth watching? I would say yes, because one, it's well made and very well acted, and just because all of the themes that cross over, I mean, you get practically all of them in this show. You just have to know what you're watching. And again, I've never seen anything in the mainstream like this that blows the whistle on itself. Again, I don't think this is revelation of the method. I mean, you could argue that there's some of that, but I think if it's unintentional. I think it's just a case of writing what they knew, and that's simply the natural course that feminism takes, and how Western civilization collapses, and all of these brilliant, young, genuine, good-hearted kids are absolutely destroyed by college and big city life. And again, this is like a cautionary tale, a modern-day Greek tragedy. So that's it for now. There's plenty more to explore here, believe it or not. We're just scratching the surface. But, yeah, if you want to catch up on the series, I probably won't do an immediate episode 3. I just wanted to tie up a few things that we didn't get to in episode 1. Now that we've kind of tied up a lot of that, it'll probably be a little bit before I get episode 3 out. And, obviously, plenty of other series here that will have new episodes coming up shortly. So I hope everybody enjoyed another edition of the MindShock podcast. You want to help support the podcast, help logic and reason return to a world where it is quickly going extinct? You can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.